who are stirring the pot.
Can't.
Can't?
No, that one, no. If you oversee the collapse of an institution, you cannot be the one who's going to oversee its resurrection.
Correct.
Out of
We
the
just
question.
say, you know,
Out of
go
the
have
question.
a moment, a
You
meeting
will
with yourself.
not have the skills because if you did, you would have ensured that the collapse didn't take place
in the first place.
Yes.
So what's the silver lining then for Kenya when it comes to us handling our debt? Because then again, we can't just be
Okay,
hopeless.
let me answer it by asking Jimmy a question.
Yes.
Okay. Practical question, Jimmy. The SGR, from what you told us yourself here, you knew about it because you were among the people who conceptualized it.
Yes.
The World Bank opposed it.
Yes.
Why was it opposed? What had you budgeted for it? And what were we later to hear when Uhuru and Ruto came into power was the budget of what was spent on the SGR? I'm going to answer that question with the answer Jimmy will give you.
Yes.
It was very simply this. We conceptualized it as a private project, as a PPP. In other words, no taxpayers' money. All we were doing was extending what was called the meter gauge to standard gauge, keeping it on the ground from Mombasa all the way to Malaba as a private entity. Kenya Railways,
same railway.
Same railway.
Yes.
Kenya Railways were going to be shareholders because they owned the land.
The land.
All right? But we were going to build the rail, right?
Yes.
And we were going to buy wagons. Okay? In partnership with people in the private sector that wanted to run the rolling stock. That project was only 55 billion shillings from Mombasa to Malaba.
55
billion.
From Mombasa to
Malaba.
Malaba.
Not Malaba, Naivasha, Malaba.
Malaba, the border of Uganda, the proper Uganda today as we talk about.
Yeah.
Okay? All right? So it was not fancy. It was not going up in the air, all these civil works. I don't know what to do. Apana. Okay?
The old railway line.
Old railway line. Just extending it like this. And no taxpayers' money, no debt. No debt. We were taking over what was a failed concession to RVR. Right? Revamping the line and running it.
That's it.
That's it. Now, what happened is that became a project between Mombasa and Naivasha in 2 contracts, a total of 500 billion shillings. All right? From 55 to 500 billion to Naivasha. All right? And the Chinese said they were going to give us a loan of 90%, which was 450 billion shillings. And Kenya government, as Kenyans, were to pay 50 billion shillings, right, as our 10% contribution. Now, we further did now an audit on top of that of what was actually done. So did we get the money from China, 450? Yes. We got it. It was a drawdown, certificates to China Exim Bank, 450.
But that's
give
still
and take.
But that's
give and
still
take.
money for Kenyans to pay back, though.
Yes, of course.
So, but you said there's no...
No, we got the money from China. It was a loan.
Okay.
Right? And a fairly expensive loan, I must say.
It was from the bank.
It was from China Exim Bank.
It wasn't a concessional
No, it was very expensive. Exim Bank is a quasi-government bank.
Yeah.
But this one was exceptionally expensive. All right? Now,
Why was it?
The terms were as such. I guess
they
did not see it as prudent, and it was a lot of money.
The terms did not favor us.
It was the biggest loan we had ever taken from China. Biggest.
Okay.
All right? Now, because at the time it was estimated at almost $5 billion. Right. That's the total, $5 billion. You know, exchange rates were different at the time. Then we audited the amount of money we contributed, the 10%, 50 billion shillings, towards the loan, towards the construction of SGR to Naivasha. Right? Simple audit. It's called self-raising finance grant from the Treasury to Kenya Railways to onward payment to China Road and Bridge. Simple math. All right? And this is, again, government records. It wasn't 450. It wasn't 50 billion. We paid a total from the Treasury of 644 billion.
Back to the bank.
No. Treasury was supposed to pay 50 billion to Kenya Railways.
Yes.
as a grant for onward transmission to China Road
Okay.
and Bridge.
Okay.
Okay.
Directly.
Yes.
As our 10% contribution
yes.
Towards the project.
towards the
Yes.
project.
Okay.
And it was done every drawdown. Every time they bring a certificate, we pay 10%, China Exim Bank pays 90%. All right? Every time they bring a certificate. So we just measured what did Treasury give Kenya Railways as the 10% contribution for that construction. It wasn't 50 billion. It was 644 billion.
Over time, or is just in
Over
one tranche?
time.
Over time, yes.
Over the time of the construction. All the time of the drawdown of any of the construction. So it's over time. So we paid for what was originally 55 billion as a private project. On contract is 500. In reality, we paid 1.1 trillion for the same project.
1.1 trillion.
Did that money
All right? So
actually
you
go?
are saying, yes, it went.
Okay.
Okay? And we are paying back a loan of 450 billion. All right. We contributed more
Towards the
than the
project.
construction of that project.
Meaning we did not need to have borrowed in the first
No.
place.
No.
Because if that's what we paid, we could actually have built that railway on our own.
Yes.
Twice.
And twice.
Twice.
We'd have gone up to even maybe further than Naivasha.
And
Now-
yes, when we say railway, this cost included the locomotives.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The rolling stock.
Oh, that's what it's called. Huh?
Yes. It's called rolling stock.
Okay.
Now, when you look at it that way, right? When you look at it that way, you ask yourself, who in their right mind is going to borrow more money from China to extend this railway? Okay? Right now, it's not viable. We are paying from our pockets to sustain it. It's economically unviable. Where are you extending it to? Don't we have other priorities? People here are looking for food. Don't we have other priorities? How many people use that railway? Will ever use it? What goods are there? That's why you have a man who was this man who came from Vietnam the other day,
Oh, yeah.
right? Who tells us you build this expensive railway to take which goods? Where?
Where?
Yeah.
What goods is this you have? You don't even have the power for those goods to manufacture those goods. Okay. And I mean, these are stark realities. Right? What foolishness is this? What drives us to do that? It's the mentality of extraction, exploitation. Right? And here we are, believing we are big people. I mean, I saw Ruto say the most ridiculous thing in China. The most ridiculous. He stands up in front of a delegation of Chinese businessmen and women, and he says, China and Kenya are pivotal pillars in the new architecture of the world, of the financial world that is now coming under what is called the fifth order.
Well,
China and Kenya. I mean, I don't know, maybe in his mind, he's a big man.
think he's
Okay?
really-
No, he thinks he's a big
No,
man.
you didn't understand. You didn't understand.
What is it I didn't understand?
I also don't understand.
two of you don't understand.
Because city. You see, America and China, they say, and this was at the World Economic Forum the other day, China is about 21%, 22% of GDP of the world. America is 27% GDP of the world. So those two countries are 50%
Of the
Of the
GDP.
world.
of the world GDP. Right? Africa in totality, including North Africa, is 4%.
4%, yes.
And then we've tried Kabisa.
Which is just equivalent to the size of France contribution. One country. France's contribution to GDP of the world is equivalent to the whole of Africa.
Africa.
And we have 1.4 billion people here. So where is it? Kenya, what is Kenya in that? We are a speck. And just to go to power, I bothered to research some figures on power alone. All right? Just to give you power production. China produces 2 million megawatts of power. 2 million.
Million.
2 million, the country. 2 million megawatts of power.
Every how long?
2 million.
City is asking per what?
No, per year.
There
Per
you
year,
go. Mhm.
Annually.
Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
That's what
Per
I
year.
was asking.
Annually.
2 million megawatts of power. All right? And they are now in renewable energy increasing new power at a rate of 300,000 megawatts of power per year.
And they run
And
all
they
their
are going-
industry and they have excess power.
And they, because of smog and all those things, they are now moving from that and creating renewable energy, right? At 300,000 megawatts per year is their target.
so that
So
brings-
now, no, Kenya is where?
We are at 357.
No, we are 3,400 megawatts of installed power. What actually goes to for our use is only 2,200. Right? Do you see the scale?
no, there's no comparison.
Can you compare?
There's no comparison.
So where is this we are
It's
discussing
a
anything,
stratospheric difference.
anything
And so
in
that
any,
brings me back to the other point that I was
so
making.
please tell me, what is it I don't understand?
What-
All right?
what you don't
I mean,
understand.
even South Africa here, right, does 50,000 megawatts
Yeah.
of installed power.
Yet they're in the dark.
Here.
And there's load
You
shedding.
have Egypt is 60,000 installed power. Nigeria is the one who has 30 installed power, but you have
Please, let's not play a beg.
something like 50 in gensets. Okay?
Yeah, just please,
All
let's focus,
Gensets,
focus,
okay?
Jimmy.
But no, but just imagine, even around us here on this continent, okay, we are like this.
And this
right?
is what
So
I was saying.
where is it we
Yeah.
become giants?
So, Jimmy, I have to bring
We-
you back.
we are-
The
we are-
only way to become a giant, if we look at the same Chinese example that we are talking about,
Yes.
the only way to become a giant is when you're producing. The examples that you've given now were still hinged on production. That China is producing so much more power than it could use in decades. That it's producing much more. It's producing for its industry and it has excess that it can actually then now sell to neighboring countries.
No, they don't
That's
even
what
want
we
to
are-
sell.
and they don't
No,
even
I
want to.
don't
They
think
don't
because
want to
can-
sell.
No,
because
it's
they
not
can-
for sale.
It's
my
not for sale.
point,
Yeah.
my
No.
point being, the only way towards economic viability is when you're operating in surplus.
Yes.
The only way to then begin to operate in surplus is if you're making a finished product, not this thing we are doing of saying take your tea and give it to who, and then they do the value add and then sell it back to you.
So when Uhuru took power from Kibaki, industry, which is where you're talking about value add, was 14% of our gross national product. Of all that we produce, industry was 14%. All right? When he left power, it was 7%. Right now, it's going towards 6%.
Okay.
So what are you talking about?
So what I'm asking is
And you're going to see the Treasury come and tell you now they want to tax imported goods. They are not talking about you. They want local manufacturing. Which local manufacturing? It isn't.
so who do you trust
So
going to
we are an importing country.
Yeah.
So that cost will still come to us and they're going to cheat us. We're not touching you. They're touching us. They're touching us. We've become the dumping ground of the world for trade. We're just
You see,
commodities place here that we just buy from others. This is a tragedy. Okay?
You see, the Vietnam CEO that you talk about, Don Chow, said, in terms of even investors coming to the country, there is no investor in the right mind who will come invest in a country where light is fidgeting and is not consistent. You talk about China producing surplus.
No, I didn't say it has
Yeah,
surplus. I
it's-
said it has 2 million. It's not
It
surplus
has
to them.
Okay, it has whatever it is they have. We do not have even enough to power our own homes.
Yes.
We talk about SGR and its all purpose, which is supposed to be getting goods out of the country. But one would have thought that even at the point of installation of SGR, EPZs and empowering farmers so that we're able to get products out of the country is something that one should have thought of, yet that was never thought of. But we have the SGR now, so moving forward, what must we do for this SGR to work for us is the question.
No, it can't. You see what happens. I think you're going too far. You see, I said we have a public entity that is actually a private company called Government of Kenya. All right? It's government extraction and exploitation. Why would it promote you? It comes to take from you.
You're not regarded.
You're not regarded. It's coming to take from you, to eat you.
How do we
No,
change that?
How, that's the point. You have to go to the original sin, which is you must remove this extraction company and its entire entity. what it stands for, how it operates. What you see as government of Kenya today must stop. Its players must be removed. And the biggest way you start, right, is why we have been on the debt issue. You cut off this debt, I want you to imagine a very different life. You cut off our payment this year of 1.9 trillion in debt. What does it take to fund the health sector? Universal health care as a target was costed at 168 billion shillings. We are paying 1.9 trillion to debt this year.
It's a tenth.
We are paying 2.2 next year. We are paying 2.5 the following year. And I can go on with those figures, appreciating up until 2038, contrary to what our friend Bandi was saying, 2034. Okay? Now, we have a situation here where if you remove that debt, can we afford universal health care for everybody?
10 times over.
Right. To fund pre-primary education. Right? CT, you're good at math.
You know, you keep insisting. Go on.
No, even you are correct in doing it.
Please go on.
Right?
Yes.
You have 10 million kids, right, in primary school. They currently get 1,400, but even give them 4,000 shillings, right, per kid. That is how many billion?
How many?
10 million times 4,000.
Eh?
I think that's 40 billion?
40
Yes,
billion.
40
yes.
billion.
Yes.
Then you have 4 million that go to high school. They say they should get at least 22,000.
It should be 22,000 in the books.
They get 17.
They get 17,
right now.
yes.
But 22 times is what? 80 something?
88.
80? 88.
Yes.
88. Now you have 275, let's say 300,000 in university. You see how people are cut off. It's tragic.
Terrible.
Yes.
You have 300,000 in university. They normally say that if you look at the average programs, they cost 300,000 shillings per year. So just take that a government's contribution can only be a maximum of a third. That's the place now a parent would contribute maybe 100,000 a year, and you could get a loan for 100,000. All right? So 100,000 times 300,000 is how much?
30 billion. 3 billion.
No. must be more.
100,000 times
300,000.
It's 300 billion.
300 billion.
300 billion.
No, it must be more than that.
No.
Must be.
Three.
Are you doing your calculation?
Yes, I'm just asking.
You're just guessing.
No, I'm not
300,000
Yes.
times 100,000.
That's 3 trillion.
No. 30 billion, I think.
30 billion.
Do the maths.
It's 30 billion.
30 billion.
Yes,
30
it is.
billion.
I thought you were better at
A
math.
billion is 9 zeros.
Yes, so
Yes.
now add 1 0 because and then
30
it comes
billion.
30 billion.
It's 30 billion.
It's 30 billion.
3 trillion sounds better.
You like 3 trillion? Okay,
It's
it's 30
30.
billion. Yes, it is.
Are you paying for SGR?
Just hold on. You're saying 300,000 times 100,000. Yeah, 30 billion.
30
Yes,
billion.
it is 30
So 30
billion.
billion plus what is it in high school?
88.
88.
88.
And what is it in primary? 40.
40.
How much is that?
70 plus 88 is 158 billion.
So 158
Yeah.
billion is all you need for no kid to pay any school fees until university. Right? You can probably even build schools and
For
absorb.
those that are in school currently.
Those are in school currently.
Yes. for
You
those
can
that are in
probably
school
build
currently.
schools so that you don't have 6 million that go out. Or build vocation schools because we need a lot of vocational training here. All right? Now, you are paying 1.9 trillion. So you can, this year, so with 400 billion roughly, 300 billion, 400 billion, you can easily take care of free primary, free high school, and a contribution in
University.
University.
You can take care of universal healthcare in totality. Nobody would have to contribute a cent to shine shift. Right? And you still have change left. So where is your emancipation?
So essentially, if you're asking the question
mean,
and we're answering,
what
your
else do you need to know?
emancipation- Your
We don't have-
emancipation is then being freed from the shackles of debt.
Correct.
Now, in order for that to happen, Jimmy, that there is a role that government plays, And this is the role that it plays, whether they are the agents of economic development, agents of infrastructure development, agents, etc., etc. And if we say then that they're the vanguards of debt and its payment, that there are certain people who are very aware of what is happening. So do I hear you to be saying that in order to be free of these shackles, and that we start now that money starting to work for Kenyans, that nobody who is involved in the current system should have any business being in the system if you want to be free?
Absolutely. If we have not understood this subject, then all we are doing is perpetuating our own economic demise, our own economic injustice. And if you look at those who have, you're the ones who should tell me what they represent. I don't know who are the candidates. Maybe you should tell me what they represent.
To start off with, the education budget per year is around 600
600 billion, yes.
Why is it 600?
Well, I'm answering the question that was asked earlier on with the 158 and what it can do. So if 158 can do what it said, this is billion Kenyan shillings,
Yes.
and you have 600 billion every year.
Yes.
Even if you take in the payment for teachers, for lecturers, for whom?
No, that is inclusive. That's what we are saying.
I'm being generous.
Yes.
Even if you threw that on top of the 158 billion, you still don't get to 600 billion.
Yes.
Which means, as currently stated, that budget that we have ought to be able to provide the education that we keep talking about.
And we ask, why is education in the ministry? It's a devolved function. Why is it in the ministry?
As opposed to in the counties?
Yes.
Well,
Why do they have such a huge budget? What nonsense is this? It's because it's a company. It doesn't want to let go.
You would assume that over time, when you start off with, you have a high budget because there are things you need to do, isn't it? But over the years, you should have done them, so certain costs should be eliminated.
Are you seeing a lot of capital expenditure with schools?
No.
Then?
If
What
that
is
was
it doing?
if that was the case, then we wouldn't have all this
6 million.
proliferation, first of all, of private schools.
Yes.
schools, yes.
And the 6 million that
Yes.
are cut off
Yes.
after primary.
No, we would not see it.
You'd not see it. They will be absorbed. One of the biggest challenges is infrastructure. So people have failed because there are no classes to go to.
So what you're saying, Jimmy, is
So
that
this is education.
If-
Remember, for us to be great, we need to sort out education.
Yes.
I've not even come to curriculum.
I want us to take a break, and then we're going to look into then how do you bring in new governments, and we're talking about
Correct.
the road to 2027. How do you bring in new people? Oh, just by the way, just in case you thought you were out of the water, the president has just come back from, or maybe he's on his way back from China, where more development loans have been agreed
they?
upon. Yes, come back with a kitty. And I don't think the Chinese are saying, well, Happy New Year, Kenya, here's some money, you don't have to pay it back. I don't think that's the case. More money coming in to the tune of more hundreds of
Have
billions.
the Chinese issued a statement that they're giving us loans?
Well, the basket of goodies that the president said that
No, he
certain
can say anything.
development
He said the
agencies
same
said
thing.
they were bringing
He
money
said the
in.
same thing the last time he was in China.
I'm
He's
very
had two
excited.
trips.
I'm very excited. There's a poultry project that's going to come up in Kajiado to the tune of 3.6 billion shillings. One development partner has
Can
said that
you
they'll give that
imagine?
money
I hope president goes to go and bring us 3.6 billion from another country.
for chicken.
Hoorah for chicken.
Let's take a break. It's 29 minutes to 10. Jimmy Wanjigi is here. We're coming back after the break,
mockery.
and we're going to say, okay, you know what then? What happens going towards 2027? What do you need to do? Who's going to do it? We'll be back after this.
On the green course,